Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Naruto nearly killed Sasuke and everyone hated him part 1. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. Naruto wakes up groggily, unable to properly focus his vision for a full minute. Once he finally is able to properly take in his surroundings, he sees his pink-haired teammate looking at him coolly. Sakura-chan, you're a monster. Naruto immediately felt a chill go up his spine and prayed he was hallucinating the scary look on Sakura's face. I told you to bring back Sasuke-kun, not bring him back with an inch of life left. What the hell is wrong with you? Sasuke. Now Naruto was really confused. He remembered the battle he had with the troubled teen, but he definitely was sure he lost to the guy as much as he hated to admit it. What was Sakura talking about? Naruto instinctively ducked, feeling his danger senses kicking in, and true enough, a GLVASE smashed against his window right behind him. If Naruto hadn't ducked, how could you? You're jealous of Sasuke, that is why you did that to him. It's true what my parents said. You are scum. Naruto's heart tightened in his chest seeing the look on his teammate's face as she continued screaming at him. I hate you, Naruto. What in the hell is going on here? Naruto looks up and sees Ino standing at the doorway with Shikamaru at her side, looking just as furious. Forehead. What the hell is your problem? My problem is with Naruto, Ino pig. It is not your damn problem. It is too my problem when you're yelling at a comrade worthy of respect. He fought to bring back Sasuke. A guy who wanted to run away and betray this village all for power. Sasuke-kun has his reasons. He just only care about himself. When are you going to realize that, Sakura? The pinkett glares intensely at Ino, but she stands there unwavering even when Shikamaru mutters a Mendosu. Naruto coughs violently, suddenly breaking the tense atmosphere and causing Shikamaru to rush to him. You okay? Water. The shadow user nods and pours Naruto a glass, putting down the fruit basket Ino made him carry as his teammate comes up toward them, ignoring Sakura as she carefully puts away the flowers she brought in a spare vase she finds in the bottom drawer of the dresser. She uses her canteen water to pour it into the vase for good measure. Thanks for the sunflowers. Naruto's voice was soft and it was clearly heard that his throat was sore. She casts him a small smile until she hears running footsteps and sees that Sakura had the nerve to steal her fruit basket. Sakura, you bitch. Get the back here. Ino runs after her without a second thought, causing Shikamaru to sigh watching her. Troublesome. Sasuke-kun. The lone Uchiha groans in despair as Sakura rushes into his hospital room with a very nice-looking fruit basket in hand. I picked these fruits out myself. All for you, Sasuke-kun. Before Sasuke could even debate in his head whether or not he should thank her, Ino appears in a flash and punches the back of Sakura's head hard to grab the basket from her. How dare you take my basket, you witch? Who you calling a witch? I'm the one who picked out the basket and all of the fruits all by myself, Ino pig. Sakura grabs at the handle, making it lock. The two girls were engaged in a tug of war. Are you mental? Shika and I are the ones who brought into Naruto's room. You stole my basket the moment my back was turned, you wench. Don't spout lies about me in front of Sasuke-kun. Ino was sure now Sakura had lost it. Are the screws in your head loose or what? Sakura opens her mouth to scream yet again but stops when she sees a familiar hand taking out the card from the basket. Dear Naruto, we hope when you finally wake up you will enjoy this fruit basket. Shika picked out the basket and I picked out all the fruits. Eat up all the fruits so you can get well soon. The neighborhood is too quiet without hearing that obnoxious laughter of yours. We will visit again, Ino and Shika. Sasuke snorts after hearing Kakashi read the card out loud. Sakura's face flamed with embarrassment, so Ino takes the chance to swipe the basket from her. Kakashi passes her the card back and Ino takes it gratefully before turning on her heel and stomping off irritably. Idiot. I've been out of it for 10 days. Shikamaru nods from his perch on the windowsill. Everyone has already been discharged. Well, except you and Sasuke douche. He is getting out today. Is he really okay? Sakura said. He was, but he didn't need to go through an operation or anything like the others, and you. I had an operation? Naruto asks, bewildered. For what? Shikamaru turns to him, eyebrow raised. You don't remember a Chidori through the lung. Naruto stiffens, understanding and remembering now why the right side of his chest hurt so much. But I'm okay now. You had a 6-hour long surgery. You were close but made it back just barely. Naruto was shocked, he was this close to actually dying. That's what you get, brat, for being so damn morally good and righteous. Gets you into shitloads of trouble. Shut up, Kyuubi. At that moment Ino storms in, putting the basket down again and sits in the bedside chair with a huff. You okay? Shikamaru asks, wary of his teammate's mood. Ino snorts, unwilling to bother, and instead turns to Naruto, studying him. The usual hyperactive genin had bags under his eyes and an unhealthy complexion that made Ino cringe at the very sight of it. How did you know I like sunflowers, Ino-chan? You mentioned it in clans, she replies plainly, jogging a long-forgotten memory in Uzumaki's head. Naruto's homeroom teacher in his 4th year in the academy was out sick one day, so the flower arranging teacher volunteered to supervise and to focus on their attention on something she could use. She asked everyone what their favorite flower was. Sunflowers. Because they can grow really big and tall. It has a really nice yellow too. Sasuke snorts next to Naruto, unimpressed. Keep talking like that, Dobi, and you're going to sound like a girl. Shut it, Tem. Naruto shakes his head, breaking out of the memory. I thought it was strange, but then again, looking back at it now, I guess it shouldn't have been, considering how stupidly cheery you are all the damn time. Ino smirks, causing Naruto to smile. Ino was the only other girl that did not ignore him or run away from him. If he greeted her, she would greet back. Ino was a nice person no matter what things he heard from Sakura. You know, I was surprised too. I thought you were gonna say some orange flower or something. You always liked bright colors. Shikamaru admitted, causing the two blondes to laugh. If you wanted to get me a fruit basket, why steal one? Sakura stutters out something about she had no money. AMD Kakashi just shakes his head. Sakura, please leave the room. I need to talk with Sasuke. But, out. There was no room for discussion and Sakura sullenly leaves the room while Sasuke watches on, feeling bittersweet because on one hand Kakashi got rid of Sakura, but on the other hand, he had a feeling he was in for it with Kakashi. Do you know why I thought you that Klutsu, Sasuke? Because you have no kids to pit on too. Do not get cheeky with me, brat. Sasuke scowls, realizing this was it. I wasn't. It was just a fact. Kakashi scowls underneath his mask. I thought you understood clearly that I taught you the technique in case Gaara would go in for the kill like how he tried to do with Rock Lee at the Chunin prelim exams, however you instead used it on your teammate. For once Kakashi visibly loses his cool and pulls Sasuke by the collar to meet him eye to eye. The technique was meant to kill, yes, but to kill your enemies. Not your friends. Any inch higher and the Chidori would have punctured his heart. Do you not understand this? At that moment, it just made sense to eliminate anybody obstructing my path, and the Dobi was. You finish that sentence and I will file with the Hokage a murder charge against you for admitting actual intention to kill against a fellow Leaf Nin. Knowing Tsunade-sama and her relationship with Naruto, I doubt you would have any leniency of any sort. Sasuke visibly gulped, seeing the look in his sensei's eye. Kakashi dropped his hold and the teen flopped back onto the bed. The council believes that you were controlled by your curse mark, which is why the only punishment we got was D-rank missions for 2 months. We? You mean Team 7? Why all of us? Because Sakura failed to stop you. Naruto's team succeeded in bringing you back, but at the expense of heavy injuries on the strongest male genin we have, and of course me, because I did not predict you would pull anything like this. Sasuke scowled, unhappy, but Kakashi could care less. Looks like you're awake, traitor. The males turned to see Tsunade and Shizune at the doorway, entering the room. Is he aware of the punishment? I haven't mentioned to him the new seal yet. What new seal? Sasuke asks before Tsunade could say anything else. Tsunade crosses her arms, looking at the genin firmly. Jiraiya has helped me to put on a special kind of seal around your ankle. You are not allowed to leave the village for the next 3 years. Step just 1 foot out of Konoha territory and you die in an instant. What? This time, seeing the horrified look on boy's face made Tsunade smirk in triumph. The council refuses to kill you because of the bloodline you carry, hence I pushed for this instead because you're still a security risk. You cannot do this. I will appeal. Calm down, brat. If Kakashi says you've been a good boy in a year's time, we will remove the seal. But that means I would be stuck on D-rank missions for the year while the rest of my team only got 2 months. Only. They are suffering because of you, brat. You need to take responsibility for what you did. Shizune meets eyes with Sasuke coolly, holding on to Taunton as she speaks to him. You will be discharged in an hour's time. A doctor will come in to check you, then you can leave after he clears you. Sasuke groans, feeling a migraine coming on. This sucks. At that moment, a loud explosion sounded off and Kakashi rushed to the window and his eye widened seeing what was burning. Without another word, he jumps out of the window. Alarmed, Tsunade and Shizune went to the window as well and realized what made Kakashi leave like that. Naruto's apartment building was on fire. Shizune squeezed Taunton in her arms in discomfort seeing the look on Naruto's face when Tsunade tells him about his home. Gigi gave me that apartment, Oba-chan. Without it, where am I supposed to live? Naruto, I really am sorry. Tsunade tells him sincerely. The older blonde herself hated that this happened. Some of the villagers had somehow got it into their heads that Naruto had intentionally hurt Sasuke badly, so they thought they would give the Uzumaki a lesson by torching his house. Idiots. Naruto wasn't actually the one that defeated and brought back Sasuke to begin with. Oba-chan, Kaka-sensei really couldn't get hold of anything from the apartment. I have pictures frames, of Gigi and things. Tsunade shakes her head. Kakashi reported that everything was burned, nothing salvageable. Where is Kaka-sensei? The blue-eyed blonde asks, curious. He is on the hunt for the ones who did this. Don't worry, Naruto. I will charge these villagers to the fullest extent of the law. The genin nods sullenly, knowing nothing else could be done, but he could not stop the silent tears that flowed down his face. Unable to help himself, he starts crying, the pain in his chest intensifying at the same time. Oh Naru Ototo, please don't cry, pleads Shizune. Tsunade-sama and I will help you find somewhere new to live. Or he could live with me. Naruto stops, the sharp, sweet yet familiar scent filling his nostrils. Vanilla and wisteria. He turns and he stares intently at the beautiful young woman sitting on his windowsill, her rosebud pink lips curved in a smile. Still a crybaby, I see Naru-kun. She looked no more than 20 years of age. She had long mint green hair that ended at her back, delicate eyebrows and dark heavy lined eyes of amethyst color that practically twinkled with mischief. He lowers his eyes and immediately reddens seeing what she was wearing. She wore a black mesh short-sleeved jacket, but she left it unzipped so the genin got a good eyeful of her ample cleavage thanks to her gracious revealing white sports bra. Naruto also did not fail to notice how long her legs were in her fitted fishnet cutout black leggings and guessed she would be about Kakashi's height. He watched as she swung her mint green and white sneakers adorned feet once before moving off of her perch on the window and towards where he was to stand in front of him. You know who I am, don't you, Naru? Mitsukai ne. She smiles at him and sits next to him in his bed, ruffling his hair with her white fingerless gloved hands. Good boy. You get ramen later. Just like that. Just hearing her silvery voice so close to his ear, the familiar feeling of her soft fingertips against his skin and the fragrant smell of her soap brought about so many memories that Naruto ended up crying again, causing his big sister to smile. Such a baby. Come here. Naruto buries his face in her neck as she holds him close. I'm back now, baby. Sasuke stares horrified at the state of the Uchiha compound. It was TP'd, there were broken windows and from what he could see on the ground and the walls, rotten fruit were thrown. He walks inward, looking around at the mess. He wondered why would anyone go through so much trouble to do any of what he was seeing. It was then he saw what was written on the walls. There were several, but there were some that gripped at his heart. Traitor. Die, snake bitch. Scum. You are not worthy of the name Uchiha. The last one stung hard. Sasuke clenched his fists angrily until he finally sees the condition of his own home. Kunais and shurikens were sticking out of the exterior and in large red letters, it was clearly read, home of the snake-loving traitorous whore, Uchiha Sasuke. Sasuke cursed, long and loud. He was in hell. Tsunade and Shizune sits on the bed watching the green-haired young woman brush her fingers in Naruto's hair as he sleeps peacefully with his head in her lap. You are Mashiro Rina-san, right? Rina looks up and tilts her body to roll up the sleeve of her jacket to reveal her Anbu tattoo, but unlike the standard Anbu tattoo, the ridges of the Konoha symbol was much thicker. So you are the Kohana, Shizune realizes, looking at the tattoo. Tsunade tilts her head, looking at Rina. I just approved your application to demote my best and first female Anbu general to a special Junin just so that she can adopt a certain former Orochimaru experiment. You sound disappointed, Lady Hokage. Well, of course I am. These days I can't find much women who are as comfortable with honeypot missions as you are. Rina smirked, unable to help herself. You mean as young as me? You started out young, but I hear you have quite a talent. Why else did I request a part-time position with Morino Ibiki-san? I wanted to hone my skills out of the bedroom too. Tsunade snickers, causing Shizune to smile. Rina-chan, I noticed you also put in request to adopt Naruto here. I did, yes, but it hasn't been approved. Tsunade moves to affectionately rub Naruto's shoulder as he sleeps. I think of Naru as a grandson of sorts. I wanted to meet you without your mask and the usual formalities until I approved it. Am I satisfactory then? The hazel-eyed blonde looks at Rina and sees a quiet, needy expression but filled with love. Tell me how you knew the boy. All right, sighs Rina, knowing she had to. I met Naru when was 3. The first time I saw him being picked on. He was crying and he was trembling so hard. I just ran in, picked him up and took him away to a quiet place in the forest. I covered his eyes with the bandana I was wearing at the time and spoke to him. He told me the other kids in the orphanage bully him and call him demon brat like the caretaker told them to. Shizune deadpanned, confused. Why would she do that? To make Naru's life hell. Not long after that, she pushed Naru down the stairs, and if Naruto didn't scream like he did, I wouldn't have heard it or stopped the caretaker from doing further damage. Tsunade cursed whilst Shizune gasped hearing this. The Sandame had her fired, but the next woman that replaced her was the same. Eventually I advised the Sandame that Naruto just can't live at the orphanage anymore. We planned for him to move out once he turned 6, but another incident happened where the old lady attacked Naru with a beer bottle, almost blinding the boy, so we pulled him out of the orphanage at 4 instead after he recovered from that. The Hokage stares at Naruto, unable to believe that the boy has such a cheery disposition when he had a childhood like that. From time to time, I would visit Naru where I would make him a cooked meal to eat, clean his room if needed and leave behind some books to help him study. Naru isn't very good in studies, so I tried my best to write out study notes for him and correct his homework for him to see and redo. Shizune couldn't help but smile, hearing Hat, you've been a big sister to him all this while. I tried my best. After he became Genin, I thought I could relax more, but Naruto has become a target for the Akatsuki, so I realized that Naru needs a more focused trainer. Focused trainer? Is Kakashi not sufficient? Tsunade asks, puzzled. Kakashi Hatake mostly devotes his time to Uchiha Sasuke and Haruno Sakura. Aside from making him spar with his teammates or even himself sometimes, Kakashi makes Naruto sit in the corner to hone his basic skills, but the fact is, Naruto has covered most of the basics. The major problem he really has is his chakra control, which is what Kakashi is making him practice, but it cannot be helped because Naru is a Jinchuriki. He can try and master chakra control as much as he wants, but doing the leaf exercise every day won't be of much use. Now, this was news to Tsunade. She thought since Kakashi was Minato's son, the man wouldn't ignore Naturo and train him properly, but guess she was wrong. To say she was disappointed was an understatement. Tsunade was actually pissed. Shizune watches her mentor ponder over the situation, curious on what she was thinking until she hears a soft purr of some sort. She turns and realized it was Naruto. Rina giggles, brushing her fingers over Naruto's whiskers again. Gomen, but I always loved hearing this boy purr like a little kitten. Shizune shyly follows and Naruto purrs again. I got it. The two females turn to see the Hokage with a smug grin on her face. Mashiro Rina, I approve of your request to adopt Uzumaki Naruto together with his cousin Uzumaki Karen on one condition. The green-haired young woman raises an eyebrow. Condition? Tsunade nods, fully believing that the plan she thought up was a good plan. Naruto. Congratulations. The Konoha 12 excluding Sakura and Sasuke burst into Naturo's room with big and colorful balloons. Naruto couldn't help but grin, seeing everyone. He did his best to ignore that his teammates weren't there, but he cheerily thanked his fellow genin for coming. Yo Naruto, what's with the box? Kiba asks in his usual annoying, strident voice. Naruto grins, turning to look back at the medium-sized orange box behind him with the big blue ribbon bow on the top. It's all the personal stuff from my house. Shikamaru was surprised. I thought everything was torched. My Nei-chan managed to grab everything before the fire got to them. Nei-chan, repeats Neji, shocked. En Naruto-kun, I'm sorry for what happened, Hinata tells him sincerely, speaking up. Thanks Hinata-chan, and thanks for your help in my surgery too. Ino told me you were a real champ. The shy heiress blushes intensely, causing Tenten to smile at how sweet Hinata's crush on Naruto was. Naruto-kun, Lee says, moving forward to squeeze the boy's shoulder, are you really alright? You only just woke up yesterday, right? I'm fine. You know me, I heal fast. You looked like death yesterday. Ino reminds him. Whoa Naruto, you got so many pictures. Naruto turns to see Kiba going through his box, pulling out all the items. Hey, curious. Everyone gathers around as Naruto snatches back his things, but everyone had already caught a glimpse of the pictures Kiba pulled out. A photograph of him in the Sandame, a Team 7 picture, a picture of him, Shikamaru, Choji and Kiba when the four were academy students, and another picture of Naruto with Yumi no Iruka. Inside the box, they saw Naruto's frog wallet and a small wooden box. That's not a lot of personal stuff. Neji comments. I thought you just said you had a sister. She only adopted me yesterday, you know. Actually, she's coming any minute with my cousin I never knew I had. Shino adjusts his glasses, frowning. A cousin too? Yeah, apparently. She was really far away, but Nei-chan found her and brought her here so she could take care of both of us so we can all be a family. That's right, Naru. Everyone turns and the boys all blush furiously, excluding Naruto, who just grinned proudly, happy to have such a pretty Nei-chan to look after him now. Ino gawked at the expensive blush pink bodycon midi dress Naruto's new guardian was wearing. It was off the shoulder, floral print throughout, slight sweetheart neckline that hugged the woman's perfect curves like it was made for her. The color was exquisite as it practically made the older female's skin glow. The cute little white handbag with a golden clasp the Yamanaka heir noticed that she carried on her wrist made Ino wanted to squeal in glee, and the white high heel shoes on her pedicured feet were to die for too. Ino knew she just had to know where she shopped. Rina smiles seeing everyone. Good afternoon, my name is Mashiro Rina. I am Naru's new guardian. I'm glad to see that my Ododo has such thoughtful friends. Before anyone could speak, Naruto rushes over all packed and ready to go, hugging his new big sister. Where's Karen-chan? Hi, says a small voice. He turns and sees a red-haired girl just his height. She looked flushed and guessed she was maybe shy. Karen Uzumaki had short fiery red hair that reached her chin, crimson eyes, fair skin and brown narrow glasses. She wore a purple long-sleeved top that had a black broken heart symbol on the front, a burgundy-colored skater skirt and thigh-high black boots. I'm Naruto. He tells her, feeling shy suddenly too. Mitsukai Nei-chan didn't tell him his cousin was so pretty. Great, the both of you are acquainted. The older woman gently nudges Naru to step toward, causing both of them to smile awkwardly with blushing faces. Rina. The green-haired girl freezes but reluctantly turns to see Kakashi staring at her in shock. Good grief, she was as beautiful as he last saw her. Long mint green hair gracefully fell down her back, piercing amethyst eyes, rosebud glossed pink lips, and her flawless peaches and cream complexion that drove him wild the last time he was with her. Kakashi was so confused, wondering why she was there. Sasuke and Sakura, who were next to Kakashi, stood there, transfixed by not only Rina's beauty but how startled Kakashi seemed to be. What was Naruto doing holding her hand? The three of them wondered. What's going on? The gray-haired Hitaki finally asks. Rina intertwines her fingers with her blue-eyed blonde. Naruto is my new ward Kakashi. 1 month later, Team 7 gathered at the Hokage's chambers. It would be the first they had seen each other since Naruto and Sasuke were discharged, as they were both on a 1-month medical leave due to the injuries they suffered. Tsunade was actually surprised to see Kakashi on time with them, but decided it was for the better. The faster she told them, the faster she could rid herself of the problem. Kakashi was indifferent until he saw that his blonde student had changed wardrobe. Instead of the usual blue and orange ensemble he usually wore, Naruto wore a blue open jacket with an orange rimmed detail on the collar and the sleeves, chest fishnet mesh armor with his necklace in clear view and a much more fitted orange pants. Hence in overall, the new uniform would be more easier for Naruto move about in and a lot less orange much to the Junin's silent relief. The jacket however in particular was oddly reminiscent of his former teammate's uniform and with a pang, Kakashi remembered how much Naruto reminded him of Obito when they first met. Naruto still donned the Uzumaki symbol proudly on his arm sleeve and back of his jacket but still the blonde looked so much like Obito that it scared him. He shakes his head irritably, trying to think of other things. I have 3 things to tell you all which may affect certain people more than other. Tsunade studies them carefully but sees nonchalant expressions on all of them except Naruto who looked slightly nervous. But before that, Naruto, how do you like your new guardian so far? Whatever nerve Suan thought she saw disappeared in an instant and was replaced with a huge grin and an excited twinkle in his big blue eyes. Naruto just gushed about his new Nei-san and his cute cousin. He went on and on about his new house with his big new room, the big backyard garden, all the good homemade food he was eating and the fun he was having with his new family. After a while, Shizune reluctantly stops him. As much as she loves seeing the boy happy, the Hokage had work to do. Now, first thing, it is no secret that the Uchiha compound has been vandalized repeatedly since Sasuke has been discharged. The report has become a concern for the council who have come to a decision in regards to Sasuke Uchiha's safety. Sasuke frowns, his gut feeling telling him that he was not going to like whatever the Hokage was going to say and tried to inject that he could take care of himself but Tsunade shot him down irritably. Ever since Sasuke came back, the Hokage had very little patience with anything that concerned the Avenger. By order of the council, Kakashi Hatake is now assigned as Sasuke's legal guardian and caretaker until Sasuke's punishment is over. Sasuke deadpanned at the announcement but turned to see Kakashi's reaction with everyone else. Kakashi blinked his eyes once, then twice and then one more final time before smiling politely beneath his mask. Hokage-sama, with all due respect, I must turn this down, I am not qualified to take care of him. There will be consequences if you reject this Kakashi. The Junin raises his visible eyebrow, slightly irked which only made the blonde woman smirk. Naruto-kun, what has Sasuke learned from Kakashi? The spiky-haired genin wondered what brought this out of the blue but answered truthfully, Kaka-sensei taught all of us teamwork exercises, some neat camping tricks, climbing trees and usually he makes us go through a really tough physical regimen. Sakura blinked, surprised Naruto Uzumaki used a word like regimen, but continues listening to Naruto. Sasuke learned all sorts of stuff from Kaka-sensei like his Chidori, fire jutsu, his Sharingan and Taijutsu. Sasuke nods confirming it but is more confused when Tsunade presses on and asks what did Sakura learn. Sakura-chan learned a bit of Genjutsu and some Taijutsu. And what about you Naruto? Naruto frowned, folding his arms as he really thought about it. Kaka-sensei taught me the 1,000 years of pain jutsu. It was then Kakashi realized what was going to happen and face-palmed. Anything else he thought you Naruto? He made me practice the basics most of the time because he says I'm really bad at them and I have weak form. Kakashi noted that Naruto looked sad as he answered and made a mental note to talk to his student later but first he needed to defend himself. Tsunade-sama I can explain. There is nothing to explain. I can file a mark on your record for playing bias on your genin and failure to properly train your student. These charges more than warrant for a review. But, which is why you will concede to becoming Sasuke's caretaker. Before Kakashi could further protest Sakura speaks up, it's not Kakashi-sensei's fault that Naruto sucks at training. Ouch. Naruto looked visibly hurt at the remark but oddly says nothing much to Tsunade's chagrin. Sakura, if Naruto really sucked at training then Naruto wouldn't have been able to defend himself much less defeat people like Kabuto Yakushi who is one of Orochimaru's top agents might I add. Sakura closes her mouth, muttering something along the lines like dumb luck. Tsunade shakes her head and turns to Kakashi again. Well, have that bias mark on your record forever or live with Sasuke for a year or 3. Which would you rather deal with? Kakashi knew a bias mark on his record will look bad for him, worse he would not be allowed to lead anything much less a team. That's when it hit him, if he gets this bias mark. Tsunade-sama, if I get this bias mark then that means I can't be Team 7 sensei anymore, right? Correct. The genin was shocked, the Hokage was blatantly blackmailing their Junin sensei right in front of them. Ba-chan, don't. Sorry Naruto, but this would have happened eventually. Naruto tried to argue and it touched Kakashi that even though he didn't give Naruto much individual training, here the blonde was trying to defend him whereas Sakura stood there dumbly watching while Sasuke looked like his mind was elsewhere. He could also see that Suand and Shizune were unhappy that Naruto was arguing with them, but it wasn't like Kakashi blamed them. He had to admit that he didn't treat the kids fairly and was devoting much of his time to the Uchiha. With a heavy sigh, Kakashi relents much to Sasuke's annoyance. The Avenger watches in disdain as his sensei signed the legal papers. He turns to Naruto and nudged him irritably to glare at him even though it was clear as day that Naruto was bothered by the whole ordeal as well. Now the last thing, Kakashi, you are demoted to assistant genin sensei, so there will be a replacement for the Junin sensei. Also, you will have a new genin member joining you, so once the 2 months punishment is over, Team 7 will go on the higher ranked missions as a full team as they should, excluding Sasuke of course. To say he was appalled was an understatement. Kakashi was pissed. I just signed the damn papers so I could remain as the team's sensei. Shizune answers for her master, smiling coyly, you will still be an assistant sensei to the team, so you will still be teaching them. Why am I being replaced? Kakashi demands, visibly frustrated but more calmer. It is so that you have less distractions so you can focus more on Sasuke to make sure he doesn't do anything else stupid. Sasuke scowls, unhappy with what the short-haired woman said, but she doesn't give him any face. Instead she went on to tell them that they had already arranged for Sasuke's things to be moved to Kakashi's apartment so they won't have to worry about the hassle of moving. The gray-haired Junin felt a little annoyed that they had already moved Sasuke's things in before he signed the papers, but decided it best, it was not worth to make a point out if, and instead focused on what was at hand. So who is replacing me? Kakashi asks, curious. Yo. Kakashi turns and stares as Mashiro Rina enters the room with Karen in tow. Rina wore a black midriff-bearing top with tight mesh long sleeves hugging her slim arms, army green 3/4 pants that had fishnet detail around the knee area, her Konoha headband tied firmly around her tiny waist, and black heels similar to the ones Shizune wore. In addition, she wore her mint green hair high above her head, showcasing its volume and length with curly bangs framing her heart-shaped face, along wore a whistle around her swan-like neck that rested nicely on her plentiful buxom. She smiles warmly with Karen at her side, looking nonchalant. She wore a fishnet body stockings under a purple skirt and a white short-sleeved crop top with the Uzumaki symbol on the side where her heart was supposed to be, along with blue sandals on her feet. She also had the Leaf Village forehead protector on her forehead. Team 7, meet your new members. Uzumaki Karen and Mashiro Rina. Naruto sped toward his family and hugged his guardian first, Nei-chan. Rina giggled, ruffling the boy's hair, hello Naru dear. You threatened to report Kakashi's biases when you got the Dobi's guardian and his cousin on the team. How the heck is that fair? Tsunade rolled her eyes at the Uchiha. Life isn't fair, Brad. Besides, Rina-san gave me her word that she will give all of you her equal attention and I trust her. Sasuke mutters something under his breath while Sakura frowns too, silently agreeing with Sasuke that it is unfair but knew better than to argue with the Hokage. Meet us at training ground 47 in 10 minutes or else. Naruto watches Karen wave goodbye at him before the two disappear in a puff of smoke. Clones. Suddenly Kakashi grabs the boy by the collar before Naruto could properly react. Training ground 47 is all the way on the other side of the village, we need to get moving now. Come on, your Nei-san will never let me hear the end of it if any of us don't meet the deadline. At training ground 47, Rina sits on the log, with one leg crossed over the other and Karen by her side sitting cross-legged on the ground, nonchalantly plucking petals off a daisy she found. At the moment she plucks off the last petal, the foursome had arrived, so Rina presses on her timer. 8 minutes 48 seconds. I expected better. Sakura looked pale and wanted to fall over and rest, but noticing that the others weren't panting as heavily as her, she thought it best to just power through and raises her head to meet Rina's gaze. All of you sit. Let's introduce ourselves to each other, yeah. Why did you take my job? Rina looks up and sees the look in his eye, much to her amusement. She gestures to him to seat next to her on the log, and Kakashi sits with her and silently observed that Rina seemed to be covering her Anbu mark with bandages underneath the mesh sleeve. I didn't mean to take your job, Kashi. After my demotion, I intended to work full-time with the interrogation unit, but thanks to this, I have been assigned Genin Sensei, so I can only work part-time there. I'm sorry that this makes you uncomfortable, but I didn't ask for this, and is it really that bad to see me again? Did you hate the last time we worked together? Kakashi faltered, memories of his time with her flashing in his mind. They had been in Anbu, were friends since they first met, but ever since their last undercover operation together 2 years ago, Kakashi had left Anbu and they haven't spoken since then, no. In fact, I'm glad to see you well. So you two do know each other? Sakura asks as she moves to sit on the ground with her 2 male teammates who had been watching the adults curiously. We worked together a couple of times. I haven't seen Kashi in 2 years though, so it is nice seeing you, Cyclops. The gray-haired Junin rolled his eyes, unamused. It's good to see you too, Siren. Rina flushes, embarrassed at the old nickname, and smacks his arm, but Kakashi merely smirks at her beneath his mask. Sakura looks thoughtful watching them, while Sasuke, who sat by her, decided to take the chance to ask a question of his own. How old are you? I turned 21 early this month. Sakura's jaw drops in shock, whatever she was thinking off beforehand gone and replaced with the startling that their new sensei was looked only to be 5 years their senior. How does she look so young? Why do you ask, Sasuke? Sasuke frowns, studying her. You seem familiar. Well, I only met you once, but you were small, so I doubt you remembered. I was once upon a time a good friend of your brother. Sasuke's eyes widen in surprise. Taking advantage of the fact that he seemed to be at a loss for words, Rina claps her hands together. So, since I am the new sensei, I want to get to know all of you. Each of you introduce yourselves, starting with Kashi. But you already know me. He mumbles, lazy. She flicks the back of his forehead, smiling at him, but I'm sure the genin don't. Come on now. The gray-haired Junin irritably rubs the back of his head in his introduction. My name is Hitaki Kakashi. I like reading, training, and rice balls. I dislike bossy people and people who treat their friends like scum. I don't have a dream. Sasuke scoffs at the end of it. That's much more informative compared to the one you gave us when we first met. Sakura raises her hand as if to ask a question. Kakashi calls on her and was surprised by the pinket's bluntness. Kakashi-sensei, don't you want a wife? A family eventually? Don't you have a girlfriend or something? Rina purses her lips in amusement and turns to see Kakashi's reaction, but seeing that look in his eyes, she realized he was remembering something. Flashback. Kakashi zips up the back of her dress and tenderly kisses her neck, causing his companion to giggle as his fingertips brushes against her smooth neck. Tomo. Not my fault you have such nice skin. Idiot. Kakashi chuckles, wrapping his arms around her. Have you ever thought about actual marriage one day, Natsumi? One day, sure. I do want to have spawns of my own, yes. Why? He looks up at the mirror, seeing her smiling coyly at him. Would you possibly consider me? He watches as a blush creep onto the younger girl's face and smirks widely before resting his chin on her head gently as she stutters something about waiting till she was 21 or so. End of flashback. Kakashi grinned for the first time that day as he answered, there may be somebody, but provided she remembers my proposal. From the corner of his eye, he sees Rina's ears turn slightly red and smirked, pleasantly surprised that his former lover remembered. He gestures Sakura to introduce herself next before she tries to pressure to know more about what he meant. She pouted, but knowing her sensei, she doubted he would give in, so she complied and began. I'm Haruno Sakura. I like reading, sweet things, and losing weight. I dislike fatty foods, Eno pig, and people who look down on me. My dream is. She turns to Sasuke blushing shyly, and Karen rolls her eyes, realizing she had a fangirl on the team. She turns to look at Naruto, who had been oddly quiet since their arrival, and notices that he pulled out his picture cards, looking through them studiously. She smiles fondly at him, proud of Naruto for trying his best. Rina, however, was focused on looking at Sakura, concerned. Sakura, what's your height now? 148 centimeters. Weight, 35 kilograms. She answers enthusiastically, obviously proud, but Kakashi knew better. He saw the look of worry on Rina's face and apparently everyone else. Naruto had stopped looking at whatever he was hiding in his arm and watched him speak up for the first time since they arrived at the training grounds. Sakura-chan, are you sure you're 35 kilos? What's that supposed to mean? You think I'm fat, is it? Sasuke's frown deepens before Naruto could answer. Sakura, 35 kilograms doesn't sound healthy. Karen nods, speaking loud enough for the team to hear her. By my calculations, you're underweight and that is not healthy for a kunoichi. Sakura-chan, why do you like to lose weight? You're plenty slim already. Kakashi tells her, slightly concerned. No, I'm not. My face is chubby. For dramatic effect, she pinches her cheeks and Naruto shakes his head wildly, but Sakura-chan. You were the prettiest girl in our cohort. Plus your face isn't chubby at all. Sakura shakes her head violently, still dissatisfied. Seeing this, Rina pulls out a stack of pocket-sized notebooks from her satchel and passes one each to the team. Naruto's was orange, Sasuke's was blue like his shirt, Sakura's was pink like her hair, Kakashi's was black and Karen's one was red like her own hair. Rina pulls out hers, which was amethyst in color like her eyes. She jots something down and everyone looks at her, wondering why she had given them a notebook and a black pen each. From now on, if I give you guys instructions to do later or to practice, I want you all to jot them down. Kakashi, write the following in your notebook. Arrange for an appointment with Okuda-sensei at Konoha General Hospital for physicals and nutrition consultations for this week for Sasuke and Sakura ASAP. But I'm fine. No, you're not. Rina raises her voice for the first time, much to her two wards' surprise, but stays silent. The green-haired young woman steadies herself, speaking in a more calm manner, realizing that she had startled her wards. Sakura, you are a growing girl and you need the MFORU to grow up healthy and strong, not to mention the fact you need the right levels of calorie intake so you can have the energy you need to carry out your day. But I am healthy. Are you sure about that? This is for own good, Sakura. But I want to be slim. Which is more important, being slim or being healthy? Rina inquires patiently, looking at her student. Sakura falters, looking disheartened at the look her new sensei was giving her. But sensei, you're slim and you're incredibly beautiful. Now this caught Rina off guard. She was surprised that Sakura had used her for an example, but after a moment to recollect herself, she takes the pinket's hand in her soft one, choosing her words carefully before speaking. Everyone is beautiful, Sakura. I take care of my eating habits and exercise regimen because it is important for me to be in shape, yes, and to be honest with you, looking good does make one feel good, but being fit and healthy is what makes me happy. Being happy and healthy is the most important thing, do you understand? Sakura practically melts in her Rina's soft gaze and nods her head meekly, unsure of what else to do or say until Sasuke speaks up suddenly. Why do I need to go for the appointments too? Rina draws back, sitting back comfortably on the log with Kakashi before answering, it's just for my own peace of mind that you're healthy, Sasuke. Naruto and Karen went for their appointments in the first week they joined my custody and will have their nutrition checkup tomorrow morning. Naruto nods and turns to Sakura and Sasuke. Okuda-sensei is really nice. She gave me and Karen chocolate chip cookies before we left too. Sasuke rolls his eyes, folding his arms until Kakashi calls on him to do his introduction and reminds him not to be vague like last time. My name is Uchiha Sasuke. I like vegetables and training. I dislike stupid people. My ambition is to avenge my clan and rebuild it to the glory that it once was. Ew, you like vegetables? Naruto repeats, grossed out. Only idiots would find vegetables disgusting, they are good for you, Dobi. Since you don't eat them, that's probably why you're a shorty. Hey, he is right though, Karen adds on randomly, much to Naruto's frustration. The blonde looks ready to argue, but Rina stops him, looking at Sasuke curiously. Shouldn't your ambition be in reverse? What? Well, if let's say you don't succeed in killing Itachi, what will you do then? The second half of your ambition is gone forever. I will not lose to him. Rina couldn't help but smile in amusement at the boy's fierce demeanor. Sasuke, every ninja must have a contingency plan. My advice to you is to have a son first before you run off to assassinate your brother. No. Why? Kakashi asks, interested. I do not want Itachi to repeat what he did. Rina softened, hearing Sasuke, but before she could say anything, Kakashi interrupts her. Then have a strong and capable wife that is able to defend herself and the child. That isn't hard now, is it? Itachi took out an entire ninja clan. Itachi is a monster. No ordinary ninja can fend him off easily. Then marry an extraordinary Kunoichi, Kakashi answers plainly. Suddenly, Sasuke feels a hand on his shoulder and sees Naruto grinning at him. I can help to look after your family while you're gone too, you know. So you don't have to worry. Sasuke blinks surprised, and in a soft tone he asks, you would really do that? After what I did to you? Sure, we're friends. Sasuke was dumbstruck. He had almost killed Naruto at the Valley of the Waves, but here he was offering his protection to look after his future family. Rina smiles softly at the pair before gently reminding Naruto it's his turn. She kind of hated to interrupt an emotional moment for the Uchiha, but she needed the session to continue. My name is Uzumaki Naruto. I like ramen, the plants that I garden, my family and my friends. I dislike the 3 minutes I have to wait for my ramen to cook, vegetables and snobby people. My dream is to become Hokage and make my Nei-chan proud. Rina resisted every fiber of her being to pick up her adorable ward and hug him tight, and with almost a pained expression on her face, she encourages Karen to go next quickly. I'm Uzumaki Karen. I like drinking tea, meditating, learning new things and spending time with my new family. I dislike people who are rude to Naruto and fangirls. My dream is to become the Dean of Medicine at Konoha General and make my Oni-sama proud. Kakashi tilted her head at her, interested, and asks if she knew medical ninjutsu, and she replies that Kabuto had taught her a few things when she was under Orochimaru and that she will joining as an apprentice at Konoha Hospital in a month. She adds on telling him that she is already in the Advanced Medic CL with Hinata under Shizune. Karen is awesome and super strong. Naruto shouts suddenly, much to her cousin's amusement and to the surprise of everyone else. From what Kakashi, Sakura and Sasuke could gather, Naruto and Karen seemed to get along well despite the fact that Karen seemed a little cold. Rina claps her hands suddenly, calling attention to herself and smiling to indicate it was her introduction next. My name is Rina Mashiro. I like reading, exercise, cooking and music. I dislike rude, narrow-minded and undisciplined people. My dream is to raise my wards the best way I can so that they may lead content lives as happy and healthy individuals. Also, as far as the rest of you are concerned, I want you all to refer to me as Mitsukai-sensei. Naruto was surprised. But you said you don't want to be called that in public. You kept shushing me every time I did it. Yes, but in this case, I would prefer myself to have a codename. I don't need so many people knowing my real name, Naruto. Why? Sakura asks, curious. The best ninjas are the one who are known by code names, not by their actual name, she answers with a wink. Oh, and if any of you, including you Kakashi, who calls me by my actual name or Nei-san when we are all together for training or on a mission, will be punished severely by me. That also includes my wards. Sasuke scowls. I am not calling someone Mitsukai. Fine, then call me sensei. Now, all of you go do Kakashi's usual workout routine. Naruto, brief your cousin as you do them. Hop to it. She stands with her hands on her hips watching her genin grudgingly get up and jog away. Slightly irritated, she blows on her whistle and Naruto and Karen speed up much to her satisfaction. Seeing them, Sasuke and Sakura follow suit, wondering what kind of discipline training the Uzumakis had with their guardian. Rina turns to Kakashi, smiling as she lets down her long hair from her ponytail. Kakashi, you stay here. I got somewhere to go. Before the gray-haired Junin could protest, Rina forms a hand sign and changes her clothes in a henge. She now wore a pastel blue, off-the-shoulder top with sweetheart neckline, a ruffle detailed bottom hem and ruffle sleeves, along with a pair of dark blue drainpipe jeans adorning her long legs and pastel blue bow sandals on her feet. She wore large golden hoop earrings, a long gold chain necklace and 3 gold rings on one hand with a black wristwatch on the other. Kakashi stands, noting the light makeup on her face too. Rina picks up her satchel and carries it, her eyes still on Kakashi. I'll be back soon. If I am running late, I will send one of my summons down. Yane. Hold it. She turns just in time to feel a familiar set of lips press against his cheek. We should talk soon, Natsumi. The 21-year-old blushes prettily, hating how he was the only other person that could sneak up to her like that. I know, Tomo. He smiles, putting his mask on at hearing her call him by his former undercover name. Come back soon, Rina Koi. She sticks her tongue out at him childishly before walking away, leaving behind a satisfied Kakashi. I did miss you, Natsumi. Thank you for meeting with me, Jiraiya-sama. The Toad-sanin eyed Rina warily as she took a seat at the table. He was surprised to hear that Naruto had a guardian now and only found this out when Rina reached out to arrange a meeting with him. Jiraiya closes his eyes then, feeling disappointed with himself. He had actually wanted to take Naruto with him on a training trip, but now it seemed out of the question. According to Tsunade, Mashiro Rina was no pushover and she has full intentions of mothering the Uzumaki cousins, so trying to take away Naruto would not be a smart move. Rina meanwhile drinks silently from her glove water, aware that Jiraiya was cautious, merely judging from his stature and facial expression. She clears her throat, eager to get it over and done with. I'm not going to beat around the bush. I want you to tell Naruto about his parents. Well, that was blunt. Mashiro-san, Naruto is far too young to learn the truth. He will not be able to keep a secret like that. And how did you know about his parents? Oh please, any idiot with half a brain can see he has his father's features plus his mother's face and verbal tick. Jiraiya's sweat dropped at that, unsure of what to say until she spoke again. I met them before when I was much younger. They were nice people. I don't understand why the village hasn't realized the connection yet though. Surely the Red Habanero was a memorable character. The Sanin laughed, unable to help himself. She was a riot. Rina smiled warmly at the loss of tension in his shoulders, and slowly the two warmed up to each other as they reminisced about the couple that tragically passed away. Oi Dobi. Stop for a minute. Naruto slowed his jogging pace until he stood in front of Sasuke, wondering what did the Uchiha want. What's up? How does your guardian know Itachi? Naruto sighed before rubbing the back of his head in an exasperated fashion, knowing the question would come up. Why does it matter? Because he is my brother. I deserve to know. Naruto frowns, tilting his head at the Uchiha as if debating within himself whether he should tell him anything. Dobi, answer me. Sasuke shoves him backward, yet Naruto didn't stumble, but it did cause the blonde to glare. If you want information, ask nicely first, not push my cousin, you dipshit. Sasuke glares as Karen as she stops behind him before moving toward her cousin to stand next to him, visibly irked. This is not any of your damn business, Four Eyes. She gives him the finger, enraging him, but before he could make a move, he freezes upon feeling a kunai to his neck and a cold pair of eyes on him. Harm my cousin in any way outside of a spar or any sort of legal battle, I will stab you in the throat with this kunai. Sasuke stiffens, surprised by Naruto's actions. It was really out of character for him to act this way. The blonde sounded like he would very well make good on his threat. Slowly he withdraws the kunai and Sasuke stands, making eye contact with a smirking redhead, and bites his tongue from saying anything as Naruto was still eyeballing him. Why are you guys standing there? The Uzumaki's turned to see Sakura panting as she tried to catch her breath. Sakura. The Pinkett looks up to see Sasuke looking at her, and almost immediately Sakura straightened her back and smiles widely. Yes, Sasuke-kun. Ignoring the quick change in demeanor, Sasuke asks her a question. You know almost everybody in the village, right? Do you know anything about Mashiro Rina? Sakura shakes her head, answering that she seemed to come out of nowhere, and the only thing she has heard about her is that the villagers thought she was crazy taking Naruto in. Karen clenched her fist, irritated as Sakura went on, saying that the villagers thought Mashiro Rina was some sort of an idiot to take in the orphan scum as her ward. After hearing the name orphan scum a second time as Sakura continued, Karen had enough, so she grabs Naruto's hand and drags him out of there, wanting to be as far away from the insensitive Pinkett. Why did you call Naruto scum? Sakura frowned, confused by Sasuke's disapproving look. I am just reiterating what the villagers said. You could have used other names, Sakura. That was low even for you. I know you can be oblivious sometimes, but Naruto was probably really hurt by that. But Sasuke-kun, he hurt you. He put you in the hospital. Naruto was not the one that did that. It was some female Anbu with wolf summons. Sakura was shocked but even more so by Sasuke's light shudder in his shoulders. The Uchiha closes his eyes, the memory hitting him hard. He heard the wolves come up toward him and he tried to stop them with his shuriken but it was no use. They dodged and pounced on him, attacking him menacingly with their claws and teeth before being completely pummeled by an enraged Anbu agent with an impressive amount of strength causing him to have extensive injuries and internal bleeding that landed him in the hospital for weeks. What kind of mask did she have? Sakura asks curiously. There was a flower painted on both cheeks. Why? Oh my gosh. You faced the Kohana. Sakura squeals, jumping up and down in glee. Who? The Kohana is one of the most recognizable Anbu agents of the village. She is even said to have the medical prowess of Tsunade-sama. How do you know this? Oh well, you know, when in the academy the girls had flower arranging classes, right? While you guys got extra PE. Well, the female sensei at the time just gushed about her all the time. Apparently she is very popular in the upper ninja ranks but also the most mysterious. She wears a full mesh bodysuit that covers her entire skin and hair so nobody can give any physical description of her. Sasuke frowns, realizing that definitely described his attacker. Is there any way we can contact this woman? Anbu are not easy to talk to, much less find. They are rarely seen. If you want you can check out the night patrol and ask them. I guess. You think Kakashi may know anything? Sasuke starts to jog and drags Sakura by the hand, realizing that if he kept standing there talking with his teammate, they won't be able to finish the course in time. You could try. Like I said, she is apparently popular. Rina sneezes into a tissue she managed to pull out in time. After clearing her nose, she tosses the tissue into the rubbish bin before turning back to continue her conversation with the Sannin. So agreed. You will come pick up the kids after their training. 12 o'clock, right? Yes, thank you very much again, Jiraiya-sama. She bows a deep bow to be polite and respectful, causing the man to smile. In his time with her, Mashiro Rina had shown to be a smart, attentive and a compassionate individual. He was glad now that Naruto was under her care. You really think Naruto will accept me as his godfather? Rina smiles as she stands up before brushing her hair from her face. Naruto has always wanted a family to love and care for him. He will do more than just accept you, he would welcome you with open arms, especially when he finds out you're the one that gave him Gama-chan. Jiraiya flushes a little at the sincerity in the girl's tone but also embarrassed that she knew about that small fact. Well then, you better watch out. I plan to spoil that boy rotten. Rina and Jiraiya laughed together at the image of an eager Naruto asking for treats. This was the begging of a beautiful friendship. The Genins returned together to the training ground, exhausted. Kakashi waved them to come closer to him where he sat underneath a large oak tree to read his precious book under the shade from the glaring hot sun. When the Genins finally reached the shade, they were just starting to crouch down to sit on the ground when they heard a loud voice telling them to stop. They turned to see Rina coming toward them. What were all of you thinking? Sitting down after an extensive exercise like that? Mizuki-sensei used to let us sit after our runs. Whines a tired Sakura. Like I give a damn about him. Does Iruka let you sit after your runs in PE back at the academy? Sasuke shakes his head, sweat beating down the sides of his face. No, he makes us do warm-ups to cool off. Did he ever tell you why? No, but I thought the whole you must not sit after exercise was a stupid myth. Heavens no. Kakashi, you let them sit after intense exercise like this. Kakashi doesn't raise his head, flipping a page in his book nonchalantly. Well, they don't really sit all the time. I supposed it's alright. Besides, the Junin yelped in surprise and dropped his book to grip his injured foot. What the hell? Rina glared, unapologetic for stomping harshly on the man's foot before turning to the Genin and ordering them to warm up immediately and promised to explain why later. Kakashi watches her as she sits beside him, her arms folded across her chest, looking rather cross as she looks on at the Genin. He tilts his head so that his hair brushes against her temple and whispers softly to her. Come on, Siren, don't be mad. The green-haired teenager snorts, her eyes fixated on the Genin who were not warming up in uniformity. Sakura seemed to be doing the stretches taught in the academy. Sasuke was doing the cat as she had seen his brother herself do for his warm-ups, while both her wards were stretching in almost sync and recognized their movements from the warms-up she had personally taught them to use. However, it bothered her that for something as simple as warm-ups, the team were not all doing it together. Natsumi, come on. Shut up, Hitaki. The special Junin stiffens and watches dumbly as Rina calls the students to a halt and makes them sit around her and himself for a circle. We are now going to do 2 exercises so I can gauge how much chakra control all of you have. The first requires individual effort, but the second one requires all of us to work together. Why do you care about our chakra control? Sasuke asks suddenly, looking bored. Because chakra control is important. Can anyone tell me why? Sakura raises her hand as if it was class time, but Rina calls on her anyway and everyone listens as Sakura gives a lengthy textbook answer. After 2 good minutes of boredom, Rina stops her. Thank you, Sakura, that was more than enough. Naruto, could you water down what your teammate said in simpler sentences? The blonde hesitated, feeling awkward with all eyes on him until Sakura accuses him of not listening. I did too. It's just that you used a lot of big words that I don't understand. What is so difficult? I don't know what gradually and perceptively means. You're an idiot, Naruto, yells the irate Pinkett. Enough. Rina pinches her nose irritably and takes a deep breath before speaking again. Naruto, if you do not understand something, then please speak up. Sakura, your answer was correct, but it was such a carbon copy of the exact text that I wonder whether you really do understand. I do too. I scored the highest in the class. I am the top Kunyachi. Wrong. Sakura frowns, confused until Rina clarifies what she meant. I have seen your final exam. Your answers are plainly laughable because it's very clear that you have studied the textbook so many times that almost all of your answers were exactly derived from the book or just paraphrased a bit. So, they are correct anyways. Regardless, it shows that you study hard, but it does not mean you are the top Kunyachi. In fact, in your cohort's taijutsu exams, Hyuga Hinata scored the highest. Haruno Sakura, what you are is nothing more than a really good student with mediocre ninja skills. However, I can tell that you are a highly self-motivated individual who is determined to achieve what she wants, which is why I would like to think that you are capable of much more provided you are trained with proper supervision. Sakura blinks, puzzled and not sure how to respond. On one hand, her new sensei saw her as more than a fangirl, but at the same time, Sakura could tell that Rina was looking down at her. Karen, please tell me why chakra control is important in your words, please. The former Orochimaru operative adjusts her glasses before answering slowly. Chakra control is needed because we need to be able to sufficiently control and conserve chakra, because over time and proper training, our reserves grow. A ninja should only mold as much chakra as they need to perform the jutsu of their choice. If they mold more chakra than is needed, the excess chakra is wasted and they will tire out faster from its loss. If they don't mold enough chakra, a technique will not be performed effectively, if at all, likely creating problems in a combat situation. Very good, Karen. However, I recognized a phrase you quoted. You studied from Chiyo-sama Medical Ninjutsu Guidebook, am I right? The redhead nods and Rina smiles before turning to Naruto to ask if he understood, who answers a gleeful yes, so in turn, she tells him to simplify in his own words. Much to her pleasure, the boy answers confidently. So basically, if we don't learn to control our chakra, we will get tired really fast and become useless, right? Sasuke snorts, commenting how dumbed down Naruto had made the explanation. Before the blonde could retort, Rina interrupts. Naruto, good job. Fairly correct answer. Now I want you and Sakura to do push-ups for earlier. 20 each, because you, Naruto, failed to speak up, and you, Sakura, for not giving me a satisfactory answer. But Naruto doesn't argue unlike his teammate and quickly gets to work, much to Sakura's dismay. Sakura, I am not asking again. The Pinkett groans and reluctantly moves to position until Rina barks at her to lift her knees up. I'm a girl. I'm doing the girl push-ups. You are Kunyachi, so act like it and do it properly or I will double the count. Sakura turns to Kakashi for help, but the masked ninja pays her no heed, reading his book. With a small grunt, the Pinkett starts the proper push-ups, whereas Naruto just finished his. Everyone minus Kakashi watches Sakura do hers, much to the Pinkett's embarrassment. Once she finishes, she mutters that she did nothing wrong, but Rina heard her. Then don't call your teammate an idiot for something that isn't his fault. He admitted to not understanding your explanation, so the least you could have done is to try and help him comprehend what you were trying to say, not make him feel stupid. That was rude. Sakura reddens immediately and looks down at her hands, but Rina ignores her shame and continues, the key to teamwork is communication, so if none of you are willing to get along or even try to at least cooperate with one another, then none of you can ever progress as ninjas. From the corner of his eye, Kakashi could see the change of demeanor in his students from his former lover's words. It seems like she got to them. Good. Kakashi I smiles before turning the next page in his book. First exercise, I want each and every one of you to circulate your own chakra through your own body. I want every single one of you to control the flow through your entire chakra pathway system, allowing all of you to be properly familiar with your tenketsu. I thought only people from the Hyuga clan can do that. Naruto asks, confused. Rina shakes her head before correcting him. The Hyuga's special ability allows them to see the tenketsu of whoever they choose with their dojutsu. However, anybody, Byakugan or not, are able to be familiar with their chakra system. It just takes concentration, practice and a little luck. Suddenly, the tall Kunichi whips out a scroll and unwinds it to reveal a diagram of what a chakra pathway system should look like in a human ninja's body. She lays it on the ground and gestures her students to gather around and take a look. This is not drawn to scale, but you can get the general idea of it. Sasuke frowns hearing that because he was going to use his Sharingan to memorize it for future study. He looks it over again and sees something that startled him, the signature of the person who created the diagram. Hyuga Hisako. Sasuke blinked, an image of Hinata's mother flashing in his mind. He knew Hinata's mother was once upon a time a great medical nin according to Hinata, but he never expected this. Rina speaks again, disrupting Sasuke's train of thought. Anyways, this diagram is not particularly accurate because everybody is different. Everyone has the same number of tenketsu, but not everyone's chakra points are in the same place. Some may be a little higher or lower than what the diagram indicates, hence why only the Hyuga clan are able to fully utilize this knowledge with their abilities. So how does this benefit us? We can't see our tenketsu, asks Sakura, not understanding where her sensei was getting at. No, you can't see it, but you can feel it, and like I just said, all it takes is concentration. If you are sensitive enough to be able to pinpoint your tenketsu, then congratulations, otherwise being able to properly flow your chakra throughout your entire system will be helpful regardless. Naruto tilts his head, curious, how? Rina opens her mouth to answer, but Karen beats her to it. Usually if you're in a cold climate, ninjas will use their chakra to circulate within their body to warm themselves up so that they do not catch pneumonia or frostbite. Mitsukai smirks, impressed that Karen knew that, and praised her ward for her accurate example before keeping the scroll aside. She claps her hands and instructs the genin to sit in a circle. She moves to sit beside Kakashi, who closed his book, knowing fully well Rina would not take kindly if he did not participate. Mitsukai sensei. Rina turns to see it was Karen, who seemed embarrassed to call her guardian by such an address, causing the older female to smile and patiently asks, what did Karen wish to ask? You told us you will tell us why we can't sit after exercise. The 21-year-old smiles wider before taking out her notebook and writing something out as she speaks. While exercising, your heart is pumping hard and sending blood to the working muscles in your arms and legs. If you stop and sit down, your heart will quickly slow down, leaving lots of blood in the particular area. Some people may actually faint from that if they are not careful. Thus it is recommended that before and after exercise, you stretch to ensure your muscles are properly warm and ready, where you can also benefit from increased blood circulation. Naruto's eyes widen after hearing the whole explanation. Cool. So that's why you always make me and Karen stretch all the time. She winks at him in response, causing Naruto to grin before passing over a piece of paper she tore from her notebook to PTO Karen, who looks it over only to recognize a few familiar medical terms like aorta and cardiovascular. That is for your own benefit. That is a lengthier version of the answer to your question, however, his better explains what actually happens within the body before and after exercise by scientific standard. I hope this helps in your medical training. Karen smiles fondly at the kind gesture before lifting her face to sincerely thank her guardian. Rina merely waves her hand modestly. Now, all of you concentrate, I am officially starting the first exercise. She watches as all of them get into a meditative position and proceeds to speak in a voice clear and loud enough for all of them to hear, but in a pleasant tone that calms everyone. Just relax and focus on the flow of your chakra. Close your eyes and focus on the warmth that is within you. Rina watched as one by one, her students closed their eyes. She turned to Kakashi, who was also studying them carefully. She gently tapped his shoulder and mouthed to him to use his Sharingan. Once he nodded his head to confirm his understanding, the experienced Kunichi stood up and slowly made her way, walking around the circle. Sasuke was the first to get her attention. If any of you are feeling numbness in a certain part of your body, means that you are not focusing your chakra enough on that particular part. Keep in mind that you must flow your chakra throughout your system. Sasuke frowned, wondering how she knew that he was feeling numb in his left leg in that particular moment, but guessed it was probably because he was fidgeting in his left side to get the feeling back. He pushes the thought aside for now and instead focused on the exercise. Meanwhile, Kakashi was impressed by the control Karen and Sakura displayed. He's observed, however, he mentally reminded himself that Sakura had small reserves to begin with, hence control would come naturally for her, but Karen on the other hand has a rather large chakra reserve which is almost as big as Sasuke's, hence larger than any average genin. He concluded that out of the four, Karen probably had the best chakra control. If any of you are sweating profusely and feeling hot all over, it means you are pumping too much chakra and that you have no control. You need to rein it in. Kakashi turns and sees Rina standing in front of a frustrated-looking Naruto. I see, can't. Yes you can, Naruto, come on. The gray-haired Junin watches with his Sharingan as Naruto's chakra flares up, almost scalding Karen and Sasuke, who swerved to the side from the heat of the chakra. Sasuke calls him an idiot, which only agitated the blonde more. Naruto then opens his eyes suddenly, panting as if he was out of breath. Sakura opens her eyes too and watches in shock as for some reason, Naruto looked like he was hyperventilating. Help. Rina crouches down calmly. She sees the terrified look in her ward's eyes and her heart was telling her to snap him out of it, but her brain was telling her that she had to make him try harder. Naruto, come on, don't stop trying. You can do this. I see, can't. Rina uses her arm to shield her face and bends backward from the chakra that flares her way, but it manages to lick at the side of her hand, causing a loud hiss to escape her pink lips. She looks up and sees Naruto, disgruntled as he had obviously caught sight of his chakra hurting his guardian, but due to his added stress, Naruto's chakra flares some more that it made Karen and Sasuke move closer to Kakashi and Sakura respectively. Mitsu. Rina closes her eyes, realizing that Naruto really couldn't do it, hence there was no helping it, she must help him now. The rest of Team 7 watches as the green-haired special Junin rests both palms on her lap before straightening her back. She takes a deep breath and she sings sweetly, slowly raising her good palm to her diaphragm to control her breathing as she sang. Much as you blame yourself, you can't be blamed for the way that you feel. Had no example of a love that was even remotely real. How can you understand something that you never had? If you let me, I can help you out with all of that. Slowly Naruto regained his breathing, the tension almost disappearing in his shoulders with each continued word Rina sang soulfully. He meets eyes with her when she opens hers, amethyst meeting cerulean blue. Kakashi breathes a sigh of relief as Naruto's chakra simmered down bit by bit. Let me love you, and I will love you, until you learn to love yourself. Let me love you. I know your trouble. Don't be afraid. Oh, I can help. Let me love you, and I will love you, until you learn to love yourself. Let me love you. A heart of numbness gets brought to life. I'll take you there. Slowly Rina extends her hand towards Naruto as she finishes, and the blonde takes it gratefully, completely mesmerized. Karen was the first to approach and moved to sit by her cousin, who was now completely mellowed. She squeezes his arm and Naruto turns to see her worried expression. He apologizes softly as the rest of the team comes toward them. Naruto. The blonde turns his head and Rina looks at him carefully as she speaks. Naruto, what you have displayed for me just now is a clear indication that your chakra control is absolutely dreadful. The blonde's face colored with embarrassment at the critique immediately. He tries to look down in shame, but Rina lifts his face by the chin so that he maintained eye contact with her. Naruto, You and I are more than well aware that you have been gifted with extremely large chakra reserves, practically monstrous in size and nature, but you can never be able to make use of this if your chakra control is not up to standard. Naruto, like Karen and Kakashi, did not miss the fact that she used the word monstrous, but wisely kept their mouths shut as Rina continued. The leaf exercise isn't doing shit for you. PME your notepad for a bit and I will jot down some exercises you can do that will improve your chakra control accordingly. Naruto did not hesitate in the least. He passes to her the notebook and watches her write everything down in a fast pace without a word. Sakura, however, spoke up suddenly, hearing all this quietly. If Naruto can't do the simplest chakra control exercise, how can any of your exercises be any better for him? Unperturbed, Rina responds as she continues, like I said earlier, Naruto has huge chakra reserves. The leaf exercise is only applicable to academy students and genin due to the fact that they would normally have low reserves. Naruto needs exercises with a more aggressive structure that is suited to his peculiar large chakra. Sakura says nothing, unable to argue with a straightforward explanation like that. She watches as Rina returns Naruto's notebook back to him. The blonde mentally reads them to the best of his ability, completely oblivious to the fact that Karen had leaned over to read them as well. Next exercise, children. Come on, move it. The remaining genin scrambled to their places at her loud, commanding tone. The clap of her hands bringing them back to attention. Before she begins, Rina rearranges the seating and moves Karen to sit next to Sasuke and Naruto in between Kakashi and herself with Karen beside her. Alright, this next exercise requires you all to work together and flow your chakra into the next person that you're holding hands with on your right. Now, holding hands. Sakura squeals in delight because Sasuke was on her left, which meant she was going to feel his chakra directly. The Uchiha groans in disdain but knew fully well that Rina would not let him out of it, so he reluctantly moves to hold Sakura's hand, causing the Pinkett to blush furiously at the contact. As I was saying, this exercise will help us see how much chakra you can take and how much you can really control. Now, in order to do this, everyone, you will all hold hands and on the count of 3, focus on your chakra to flow into the palm of the person on your right and absorb the chakra of the person on your left. Ow! Rina's eyes shoot open and sees Sakura clutching her hand in her wrist with a pained expression on her face, and immediately she turned to Sasuke, who looked confused. Sasuke, putting too much chakra can burn someone. Sakura has small reserves, so the amount of chakra she can absorb can only be so much. Be gentle, please. The Avenger deadpans but grunts a response to indicate his understanding before gently taking Sakura's hand again, causing Rina to smile softly before starting the count. 3, 2, 1. Kakashi watches everyone during the exercise, but Naruto once again catches his eye. Naruto was sweating with an anxious expression on his face and Rina was squeezing his hand everyone so often. It was then he realizes that Naruto was probably burning her with his chakra and Rina was quietly trying to remind him to ease up. It made sense why she purposely rearranged the seating. She did not want the other genin to be burned by Naruto's chakra. Kakashi, who had done this exercise in Anbu before, decides to help Rina out to get the exercise going. Everyone, please tell me what each of you are feeling. Stressed. Naruto mutters, barely audible. Warm. Karen announces clearly. Sasuke answers next with a peaceful expression on her face, soothing. Hot. Kakashi turns, hearing Sakura's answer, and realizes that as much as Sasuke was trying to control his chakra, it was still too much for Sakura to properly rein in and control. Rina counts down, seeing this happening as well, and everyone breathed a huge sigh of relief once they released each other's hands. The green-haired Kunoichi pulls a tiny bottle from her pouch and pours the medicinal cream onto her hands. Naruto watches in amazement as the burnt marks he gave her disappears almost instantly. Wow, that's so cool. Rina says nothing as she rubs her hands and wrists carefully before closing the bottle to put it away again and slowly flexing her fingers. She made a mental note to thank her goddaughter for the medicine later. Mitsukai-sensei, may I have some too? Rina raises her chin, just enough to see Sakura with small circular burn on her open palm, so she motions for her to come forward. The Pinkett does so but stiffens immediately when her new sensei gently pours a bit of the cream on her hand and freezes in shock as Rina rubs it on her palm gently without instruction. Sakura blushed at the soothing warmth of healing chakra slowly absorbed through her skin, surprised by the kind gesture. Once the mark disappeared, Rina passes Sakura 2 pieces of paper before telling her to go back to her seat and pone of the papers to Sasuke to use. Sakura nods and follows instructions accordingly after mumbling a soft thank you and giving the green-haired Junin a little bow in respect. Now then, I am passing a piece of chakra paper to each of you to use to find out what nature affinity you are. Just put in a little chakra and it will react accordingly. Mitsukai-sensei, I already know what their elements are. Kakashi blinks, unsure if he heard right, but he asks Karen how, only for her to respond with a mere smirk. Karen smugly points to each member of the team, announcing their element with confidence. Mitsukai-sensei is water type. Naruto is wind. Sasuke and Sakura is fire, while you are lightning type and I am earth type. Rina tilts her head, intrigued, so that is how you got the idea to prompt me to use the river that time, because you saw I was water-natured somehow. The redhead nods, pleased with herself after explaining that she has superior chakra sensor abilities, hence how she is able to see who has what affinity. However, much to her surprise, Rina says she still wants the others to use paper. Naruto, extremely curious, was the first to try, but his chakra sends the paper to fly above his head, but before he could stand up to try and catch it, Rina holds him back and points above it. Naruto, you can see your paper has split into half. What does that tell you? I don't know. Rina sighs, rubbing her forehead, but she takes a deep breath and explains to him that it shows that his chakra is wind, which gets a gleeful, awesome, in return. Sakura tries next and her paper turns to ash, so Rina informs her that she is indeed fire-natured. Kakashi and Rina goes next for demonstration and his paper wrinkles in his hand, defining his affinity as lightning type, while Rina confirms her affinity as water-natured when her paper becomes damp in her palm. Karen then finally uses her chakra paper, which turns into dirt and crumbled in her hand, defining her as earth type. Then what am I? Everyone turns to look at frustrated Sasuke with ash in his hand. Karen sees this and rolls her eyes. Clearly you are fire-natured like I sensed you to be. My paper wrinkled like Kakashi's before it burned 4 eyes. Rina flings another chakra paper in Sasuke's way without notice and orders him to try again, and just like he said, the paper wrinkles in his palm before burning, which just confirmed one thing. Sasuke was dual-natured, lightning and fire, which was rare for any shinobi. Sasuke smirks triumphantly hearing this, while Naruto looked a little jealous, but Karen on the other hand was pissed. He cannot be sensei. I sensed him to be fire. Rina shakes her head, answering calmly, fire has been Sasuke's predominant element all this while. Majority of his arsenal includes fire release techniques. It is unsurprising that the chakra Sasuke emits is more like fire. Karen frowns deeply as Rina continues, now obviously the reason why I am doing this is because I plan for all of you to delve into elemental ninjutsu training. For the first time since Sasuke returned to the village in a mangled heap, he smiles, not smirk but smiles, and listens intently as Rina explains. Kakashi will be the teacher in charge of this exercise due to this vast experience in element release techniques. Therefore, I thought there never has been anybody that mastered all 5 elements before. Sakura asks, interrupting Rina, but before she could turn to look at Kakashi, a shuriken cuts her cheek and she turns to see Rina glaring at her intensely. Sakura, I hate being interrupted and you have interrupted me 4 times already, so interrupt me again and you will see what I will do to you. Understand? Sakura gulps and Rina answers nonchalantly before straightening her posture. Kakashi is known as Thousand Eye Kakashi due to the fact he has copied many techniques with his Sharingan and he has released techniques of all the elements. Kakashi shrugs modestly before adding on, the only elements I have mastered is lightning, fire, earth and water, but wind is more difficult. Only the people who have the affinity are able to properly master it. Naruto cheers, saying he has the coolest element, while Sasuke rolls his eyes. Kakashi goes on to say he will train everyone the best he can on their affinity. However, if any one of them wants to partake in ninjutsu of a different element, he suggests mastering the element that have an affinity for first beforehand. Karen asks why and Kakashi explains that molding your chakra from an element you are already used to into some other element will take training and a lot of hard work. He does not want them to be discouraged from ninjutsu by trying things too early, but makes it clear that Sasuke will have a hard road ahead of him as he has two affinities, and focusing on lightning after training so long with fire will be hard. Rina claps her hands once Kakashi finishes. Now, as you are all aware, this will be what happens. Each of you will do research on your affinity and the techniques you can use. You are to come in every week with knowledge of 2 or more release techniques of your affinity. One must be performed effectively and accurately for us to see your progress, while the other technique is something I want you to inquire Kakashi about because you have trouble with it. Bring along your guidebook, in case you have extra time on your hands. Elemental training will be conducted on the first of your 4 training days. Got it. 4. Sakura repeats. I'm pretty sure our training was only 3 times a week. The other teams in your cohort have 4 team training days, hence why I am changing it so that all of you have 4 days like everybody else. Sasuke frowns, confused. Why were we only 3 days? Quote, because aside from training you kids, the Hokage always assigned me many missions on the side. Kakashi admits finally. The genin blinks, confused by this new revelation, until Sakura, who got over it rather quickly, suddenly speaks up. Sensei, 4 days is too much. I have parents, a family business to help out, and chores at home. Can't we just remain as 3 days? Everybody else has it easy because they live alone, but I have stuff to do. Almost immediately, everyone else turned to look at Sakura carefully, wondering if she was actually serious. Rina, on the other hand, was calm. Yamanaka Ino is in the same situation as you, but she does not complain, so why are you? I am not complaining. I am just saying. Quote. Rina waves her hand dismissively, not in the mood to get into it, and promptly changes the subject. It is rather interesting that this entire team has all 5 elements at our disposal. Sasuke deadpans, confused until he realizes what she meant. He and Sakura had fire, Rina was water, Naruto was wind, Kakashi was lightning, while Karen was earth. The 5 elements were indeed at their disposal. Okay, everyone stand up and let's do some stretching and a quick full body workout. Before I end this session, I want everyone to be able to go home with sweat on their skin. Kakashi chuckles, realizing what she is up to. He stands with the rest of them and smirks when Rina calls Sakura to come forward and lead the warm-ups. No way. It's too embarrassing. What's embarrassing about warms up? Asks Rina, puzzled. I don't want to stand in front of everyone and instruct them to do stuff. Kakashi chuckles, hearing that, so he points out that Sakura was always the bossy one in the group, much to the Pinket's displeasure. Sakura, you know the academy stretches by heart, hence why I want you to do them now, come on up. Sakura sighs heavily before moving to stand beside her sensei, and Rina watches gleefully as the team follows her lead, and even more so when she sees Kakashi doing them from behind. The young sensei moved to where Kakashi was and stretched by his side, speaking to him in whispers. I'm surprised you're doing it along with them. Well, your hell full body workouts would be good for me. I have been slacking lately. I could use a good sweat. Getting soft, are you, Tomo? Not at all beautiful. Rina swats his arm playfully before clapping her hands to get everyone's attention as she moved back to the front. Now then, let's get moving. Sakurai moves to stand in between Sasuke and Naruto, but when she turns back to the front, she pales instantly at the devilish smirk on the gorgeous woman's face, hence she came to one conclusion. Mashiro, Rina was somebody not to antagonize. Sakura groaned in disdain as she picked herself up from the ground, her skin covered in sweat. She panted as she looked around. Everyone was seemingly tired, but only their new sensei stood out because she was smiling. Now don't all of you feel better after cool down exercises like that? Sakura narrows her eyes at the teacher. The full body workout Rina made them go through together was tough. It put a strain on every single muscle in their bodies. Sure, the cool down exercises helped their heart rates and breathing gradually get back to normal, but honestly Sakura wished she wasn't forced into such an insane workout to begin with. Remember, next week we are starting the elemental jutsu practice, so don't forget your homework. Sasuke nodded firmly, flexing his fingers. Rina pushed him to his physical limits, and Sasuke had to admit that he liked that. Rina did not hold back. Kakashi sneaked a look to Karen and Naruto's, who seemed to be stretching on their own, and observed that the two seemed more at ease compared to their teammates, so he guessed Rina was putting them through workouts like this all the time. Suddenly, A loud shout interrupts his thoughts. Yo Naruto. The blonde turns to see Jiraiya walking toward him, waving and grinning. I'm here to take you and your cousin to lunch. Karen blinked, confused, and together with her cousin, she turns to Rina for an explanation, but the slender-built Kunichi merely smiles before kissing the both of them affectionately on the top of their heads, telling them that it was imperative they spent time with Jiraiya today. Not that Naruto did not like Jiraiya. In fact, the Toad Sage was one of the few people he could ask for help when Naruto was struggling with anything, but for him to be in Konoha meant whatever was going on was important. He nods before good-naturedly making his way towards the Sannin with his loud friendly gestures, making Karen smile as she watched. Oni-sama, surely you could give some hint. Rina says nothing at first, merely brushing the stray strands of hair that stuck to Karen's forehead due to sweat before tilting her head to whisper softly in the redhead's ear. Sakura and Sasuke watched curiously as Karen's calm demeanor was immediately replaced with shock, but before anyone could voice their curiosity, Rina was already nudging her female ward towards Jiraiya and Naruto, insisting they get a move on. Obviously, Kakashi was curious on what exactly was going to happen between the Uzumaki kids and the Toad Sage, but he was no fool. If Rina felt like it didn't need to be said out loud, it had to mean that it was meant to be private. Okay, Sasuke and Kakashi, you two head on home. I'm sure you are both tired. Sasuke frowns, suspicious, but he knew better than to pry. Rina was obviously different from anybody he met, and if he wanted to get stronger, he had to win her favor, hence he complied with her wishes. Politely bowing to her in respect before walking away with Kakashi. To his silent envy, Kakashi didn't seem to be as sore as the Uchiha felt. Hell, Sasuke was barely managing to walk, but he couldn't help but smirk seeing the tired and yet almost restless expression on Kakashi's face as they left the clearing. That was until he realized that Kakashi was walking away with his eyes on Rina. Did Kakashi like her or something? Sasuke was in fact curious on their relationship, he couldn't help it. He liked knowing things, and it was clear they had some sort of history, but he was not entirely sure if it was romantic because neither of them displayed any signs of affection aside from playful banter, but he decided he wasn't going to think too much on it unless it interfered in his affairs, which hopefully will not be the case. Sasuke had better things to worry about. Sakura stared dumbly as Rina crouched in front of her with her back in her view. What? Rina rolled her eyes. Sakura, I have already said it 3 times now. Are you seriously going to make me repeat myself for a 4th time? The Pinkett shakes her head before realizing that Rina was not facing her direction. She mumbled a small apology as she climbed onto her sensei's back awkwardly. Rina was no fool that Sakura was uncomfortable, but she wasn't going to allow Sakura to go home on her own. She had seen Sakura sway slightly during the exercises, but was impressed with the fact that Sakura did her very best to continue to finish despite obvious difficulty. She would not be doing a good job as a sensei if she allowed a student to fall from giddiness as she tried to return home on her own. The Pinkett makes a squeak as Rina casually lifted the Pinkett off her feet, latching her hands under her knees for support. It was then that the genin realized that Rina was tall. Sakura could only gawk at how much she could see. Hell, she could see the market from where she was. She had observed before that Rina was only a teensy bit shorter than Kakashi, but she didn't think much of it till now. Let's go. Kakashi tried no to smirk at Sasuke's plight. He was actually having trouble speeding up with Kakashi's normal pace. He couldn't blame the boy. Sure, Sasuke had pretty good stamina, but Rina had made all the genin push to their body's limits, so it was unsurprising to see Sasuke struggling to move. Do you want me to carry you? Sasuke stopped and looked up to glare at the man in front of him. Hell no, I am fine. You do not look fine, Sasuke-kun. Sasuke nearly jumped at the familiar voice coming out of nowhere. He turned and saw her, feeling breathless for a moment, drinking in her image. He didn't think he would see Hinata this soon, and he surely wasn't expecting her to sneak up on him. Kakashi was impressed. He didn't even sense Hinata nearby, and here she was right in front of the both of them, seemingly calm and collected. He wondered about her relationship with Sasuke. She had used the suffix kun, hence so he could only guess that the two had some sort of relationship. He studied her quietly as she attempted to converse with Sasuke. He knew she was a pretty girl, but seeing her today in a casual setting made him almost forget she was a ninja. She wore a white long-sleeved cardigan over a pastel blue top, a black and white polka dot skirt and brown sandals on her feet. Kakashi's nose easily told him that the kunoichi had applied some powder on her angelic face and scented lip balm to her cupid's bow. Good afternoon, Kakashi-sensei. The Junin did a small bow in respect. Good afternoon, Hinata-hime. How is your medical training coming along? Very well, thank you, answers the lavender-eyed child, smiling softly. The Junins bowed to her all the time due to her status as the Hyuga heiress, so she was not unfazed by the unusual formality Kakashi displayed, but it made her feel more shy than usual. After all, they only bowed to her and called her Hime because her clan was well respected and the oldest clan to exist in Konoha history. Sasuke meanwhile was watching the two converse with an annoyed look on his face. Firstly, he had no idea that Kakashi and Hinata were on friendly terms with one another, an irksome situation which he will get to the bottom of later. Secondly, he prayed Hinata wouldn't bring up, "I got your letter." Kakashi blinked and turned to see Sasuke's reddening slightly. Ooh, this is going to be interesting. Hinata. She stops herself from speaking further. She was flushed with embarrassment too, but seeing Sasuke's face, she knew better. Never mind, just come by when you're ready. She bows respectfully and wishes goodbye to Kakashi quickly before hurrying off, her cheeks warm with a cute blush. Kakashi watches her go at first before turning his attention to Sasuke, who was completely red in the face. What's this about a letter? Nothing. Let's just go. The Junin blinked, unsure if he heard Sasuke correctly. Did you just stutter? No. Kakashi's good eye twinkled with mischief before suddenly picking Sasuke up, adjusting his hands to support the boy's weight on his back. Oh oi, I'll carry you home unless you tell me about the letter. Sasuke's eyes widened, no. Fine, then we are going home like this. The Avenger scowls, irate, but Kakashi continues his banter with the boy on his back, not caring that the boy was uncomfortable. Sakura sees her house up ahead, but before she could nudge her sensei to let her down, she already sees her parents in view. Sakura's father was the first to notice them and he immediately jogs over to the two, concerned. Irina-chan, why is my daughter on your back? Did she injure herself? Sakura blinks, unsure if she heard correctly. Irina merely smiles, gently telling Haruno Kozashi that Sakura was pushed to exert herself more so than usual, and Irina merely felt that it was her responsibility to make sure she got home safely. Sakura's father breathed a sigh of relief, realizing he had nothing to worry about, and pleasantly went into conversation with Irina as they walked together toward the Haruno house, catching up. Sakura watched in awe as Rina spoke with her father kindly and listened as Irina talked about the new recipes she had been cooking at home for her kids and that the Haruno fruits and vegetables stall was the best in Konoha and etc. Mebuki, Sakura's mother, came towards the two as well and joined in the conversation with Sakura, just staring wide-eyed and confused as the three made small talk. Since when did Rina-sensei knew her parents? What letter was Hinata talking about? Sasuke scowled, tightening his grip on his new guardian's shoulders. None of your business, Kakashi. Come on now, the more you deny it, the more you make me want to go over to wherever Hinata is right now to find out what's so juicy about this secret you have. Stay out of my business, Kakashi. The Junin did not miss the tone of anger in the boy's voice, but Kakashi was not going to stop. He was curious. What was in that damn letter? Naruto swallowed his food, staring at Jiraiya as if he grew a second head. I am the son of the fourth. Jiraiya nods his head firmly. The teens and himself were gathered in their living room, eating the lunch the Toad Sage himself cooked. He did not want to get into such personal and secretive information out in the open. Doing this in a more intimate and private place was best for this situation. And you're my godfather. Jiraiya smiles and ruffles the boy's hair affectionately. That's right, kiddo. I'm sorry I couldn't be around to look after you, but the Sandaime was insistent that you would be provided for and taken care of under his supervision. I didn't realize you had it this rough until we got to know each other. Naruto's lips pursed uncomfortably. I get it, Gigi's orders are absolute. Quote, why did the Hokage thought your spy network was more important? Surely, looking after family was more. Quote, Jiraiya sighs at Karen's question, knowing fully well that Naruto could not be kept in the dark anymore. Naruto, do you remember the guys in black with red clouds on their cloaks? Yeah, one of them was Sasuke's older brother, right? Naruto answers hesitantly, shivering slightly at the memory he had of when he had first locked eyes with Itachi the first time. Right. Those guys are from this criminal organization called the Akatsuki, and they are hunting Jinchuriki, which is another term we call demon containers of the great demon-tailed beasts like yourself. Naruto's eyes widened, and for a moment he was frozen in his spot until Karen moves to hold his hand in hers and also squeezing his arm with her other hand firmly in a comforting gesture, hoping to get through to him. The blonde says nothing, acknowledging his cousin with a simple nod before motioning for Jiraiya to continue because he is intent on no longer being ignorant. I will tell you about the damn letter. Kakashi chuckles, satisfied that his constant poking at Sasuke finally got through. It did help that the villagers kept staring and whispering about them as they walked through the market area. Sasuke took a deep breath and slowly told his story as if he was completely immersed in nostalgia as he spoke, but he sounded different from usual. It was soft, almost childlike. Even if Kakashi wasn't carrying Sasuke, he doubted he could hear the emotion in the boy's tone. I wrote Hinata a letter telling her I was leaving for Oto to meet with Orochimaru. I couldn't leave without letting her know. I wanted to talk to her, but I didn't want her to get into trouble, so I just wrote her a letter instead. I care so much about Hinata. I have known her since I was 4. My mother and her mother were friends, so they usually brought us together for playdates. Itachi came sometimes, and whenever he did, he always seemed kind of interested in Hinata, to the point that I started to think he liked her, which made me kind of mad sometimes, but at that time I didn't understand why I cared. Eventually, when I was closing in towards my 6th birthday, I heard from Hiashi that he wanted to find a suitor for Hinata. I don't know what came over me, but I rushed in when I heard him mention Itachi as a possible husband for her. Quote, Kakashi blinks, realizing that Sasuke had stopped. He tilts his head slightly and notices in the Glaffa window that the boy was slightly red in the face. It didn't take a genius to know that he was getting embarrassed telling the Junin his story. I won't laugh at you or tell anybody, Sasuke. I swear on my ninja's honor that whatever you say next will be only between us. Sasuke frowned for a moment, but he takes a deep breath and continues, I volunteered. Hiashi was confused at first, but I told him as maturely as I could that I want to be the one to look after Hinata and protect her. He was not persuaded until my parents found us. They were looking for me, and when Hiashi told them what I said, my father thought Hiashi was joking, but when he realized he wasn't, my father proposed that it would be good to finally join the distant families and see what would really happen for the hybrid of the Sharingan and the Byakugan. Only then did Hiashi agree, but he made me promise to keep my mouth shut until he felt Hinata was old enough to be told about it. I signed the contract that day to marry Hinata when we turn 18. Kakashi was surprised, but at the same time not. Fugaku was a smart man, so it wasn't shocking that they figured out a way to help his son achieve his desire, which also benefited the clan in the process. He climbs up the staircase slowly, deep in thought, but when they approached close enough to his apartment, he helps Sasuke down and the pale-skinned boy stares at the front door of his new home. Kakashi unlocks the door and the genin enters the apartment and immediately catches sight of a familiar black luggage bag on a bed in a distant room. That must be your new room. It used to be a storage room, but I guess the people who brought your stuff here cleared it out. It's small, so don't expect much. Sasuke walks onward, not feeling as sore as he used to earlier, but Kakashi stops him from moving too far from him, ruffling his hair. Thank you for opening up to me, Sasuke. Sasuke bit the inside of his cheek, hoping his face wasn't as warm as he felt. I never told anyone about that before. You should let her know how you feel about her eventually. Otherwise, she would only ever be hung up on Naruto. You have to tell her. Sasuke shakes his head. I'm not ready. Kakashi pats his head, not allowing him to say another word. You know what? Just do it when you're ready. Don't ever force yourself into a situation you are not ready for. But keep in mind, Sasuke, you have to prepare yourself eventually. Otherwise, you will lose her. Sasuke nods and he turns to look at Kakashi, and for the first time since Sasuke was back, he sees the genin look at him with one of his rare small smiles. Sensei, who are you? Mashiro Rina had taken Sakura directly to the bathroom after Mebuki had promised that she will prepare a nice nutritious meal for the Pinkett to eat later after her shower. How do you mean? Why are my parents calling you Irina? Rina shrugged. She was unsurprised that Sakura had picked up on it. After all, she was literally in listening view in her conversation with the Haruno couple. Irina is what my parents gave me as a birth name. They never really referred to me as Rina, no matter how much I wanted them to. At that time, Irina felt like a snobbish name. Nowadays, I just let the public refer to me as Irina. But the villagers know that you're Naruto's guardian, right? Aren't you popular now though? Yes, they know now, but I was not immensely popular back then since I was rarely seen in the village. Only your parents' stall is the only one I visit frequently. I don't normally travel through the common area. As far as the Konoha public is aware, I am any other ninja. I prefer not to reveal too much about myself, especially to gossipy people like the Konoha citizens. Not many people call me Irina. Sakura's face reddened immediately at the older female's snide comment. Why are you so secretive? You're a Konoha ninja, yet you act as if the village is not your home and they're undeserving of knowing anything about you. Rina tilts her head, looking at the pinkett carefully. Sakura, just because I'm a private person, it does not mean that I am any less of a loyal ninja to this village. I just like keeping to myself. It is not a crime. Sakura sighed, exasperated. The older Kunyuchi had a point, albeit a frustrating one. Why does names matter to you so much? You make the team call you a fake name when you have your own, and you let the villagers call you by a different name when isn't what you actually go by. Why the different names? Why not just Rina? Quote, names, if you haven't realized, carries the person's identity, weight of reputation, power, and also intimacy. Rina smirks at the last part, causing Sakura to frown in confusion, but before she could ask, Rina had already turned around. Sakura, don't try to figure me out, it will not do well for you. Take care of yourself and I'll see you next week. Without another word, she descends down the staircase, not allowing the pinkett to say anything further. Rina had a daytime job to get to. Ino gulped hard before entering the doctor's room, feeling nervous, but all that dissipated in an instant when she recognized her doctor. Rina-san. The green-haired young woman adjusted her glasses before looking up, realizing that one of her foster son's friends had entered her room as a patient. Good afternoon, Ino. Please have a seat and please call me Mashiro-sensei when we are in this room. Ino did so and waited patiently as her doctor finished up jotting down her notes. Once the pen was put to rest on the table, the young professional gently asked why was Ino seeking medical treatment. Ino's cheeks reddened immediately and tried her best to answer, but it all came out as embarrassed mumbles that all Rina could only understand was her body language. Is it a girl problem? Ino nodded, biting her lip, and Rina smiles kindly in understanding. I see. I did notice from the appointment notes that you requested for a female doctor, so I can assume you have some lady concerns. Ino takes a deep breath before speaking, but it all comes out in a hurried rush that any other normal medical professional would make her repeat slowly, but Rina had no issues and jotted down what she said on a new piece of paper. I've been trying on my own to research on my problem, but the public library doesn't have much medical books to begin with or in what I want to know in particular. My mum would freak if I asked her because she and my dad are already going cuckoo about my upcoming seduction classes, so I don't want to put myself in a more awkward situation than I am already in. Rina looked up to see that the redness in Ino's face had sobered somewhat, so she picks up her clipboard and positions her chair so that she is properly facing her patient. All right then, talk to me. Tell me what's wrong and whatever else you want to ask. Ino takes a deep breath, trying not to let her nerves get the best of her. Rina did want to help her after all. She had to speak properly or she would never get the answers to her questions. My panties get kinda wet. Sort of dirty, that has this kind of smell. It's not a really strong smell and not a fishy smell either, but it just smells, well, weird. It's white in color and it's a lot, so I keep changing panties throughout the day. It's kind of thin, but then it gets slightly sticky to thick and gooey at times. It's making me self-conscious because I'm so afraid of guys smelling it on me and think I'm gross. Rina patted Ino's hand gently, giving her a reassuring smile. Thank you. That was brave. I know how embarrassing this is, but I'm glad you opened up and sought out answers, Ino. Ino nodded her head, smiling bashfully at the older female. The young blonde listened carefully as Rina began explaining to her what discharge is. Kakashi, why is there barely any food in this house besides fruits, cereal, orange juice and milk? Where is your rice, meat and your vegetables? Kakashi continued to lounge on his couch, his face behind his book as he answered lazily, I can't cook Sasuke, so obviously I don't have that kind of stuff here. Usually I eat out. The genin sighs in exasperation, grumbling under his breath about useless Junin before going to his room to get his watch. Look like he had to be cooking for two from now on. What are you up to? Asks Kakashi with his good eye still on the page of his novel. Market. It's late I know, but we need at least some basic stuff. Tomorrow morning we can buy the other things. Kakashi closes his book, frowning beneath his mask. Basic stuff. Other things? Yeah, I am not living off on your barely there yet expensive diet. We are buying stuff to cook. The Junin lets out a chuckle, unable to help himself, surprised that Sasuke of all the snobbish and stuck-up ninja heirs to exist could actually cook. What are you laughing about? You have to come too, you know. Kakashi's laugh died in an instant. What? I'm your charge, you're supposed to make sure I'm always in your sight, remember? The gray-haired man facepalms, grumbling irritably in his head as he went to his room to find a shirt to wear. Ino was really grateful that Mashiro-sensei was being so patient and took the extra effort to simplify her explanations so Ino could understand properly what ovulation was and everything else Ino asked about periods. The conversation was not as awkward as she thought. In fact, Ino felt completely at ease. She had a class at the academy before, but it was never in this detail yet simplified enough to understand. Rina passes her a small piece of paper and tells Ino that the price and label written there is for the type of panty liners she herself uses and she's welcome to buy them too for her to try. Ino nods her head and tucks the paper away safely in her bag along with the brochures and other notes that Rina had made for Ino to refer to. Now what do you do if it's sore or itching or it even has a strong smell? Ino smiled, answering confidently and clearly, if it doesn't get better in a week, see a doctor to confirm a yeast infection so you can get it properly treated. Good. Now how do you prevent skin irritation? Avoid using scented soap when washing down there. If preferred, you can get the feminine wash specifically to use at the pharmacy. Rina grinned, proud that Ino remembered what she had told her. Great. But Ino was not done. If the weather is hot and humid, wear cotton underwear and avoid clothes like tight jeans and pantyhose that don't let your skin breathe. The young doctor nodded whilst writing her notes. Mashiro-sensei. I think I'll do what you suggested, about changing my sleeping habit. One less piece of clothing to wash. This made Rina look up, and the moment she met eyes with the blonde, they let out a laugh together, understanding what she meant. Alright then, is there anything else I can help you with? Ino bit her lip. She had an idea, but she wasn't sure if Rina was willing to go to that extent. There is something. Sakura stood up, well, more like bounced up onto her feet the moment she saw Sasuke and Kakashi coming toward their apartment. Sasuke-kun. The Uchiha groaned, grumbling under his breath about stupid fangirls, while Kakashi silently wondered how did Sakura even know where his house was. Sasuke-kun, I have some info for you about Rina-san. Quote. Now this caught his attention, and so he reluctantly invited Sakura inside, which surprisingly Kakashi did not object considering how private he is, and listened as she told him about Rina's companionship with her parents and their new sensei's other name. For some reason, the name Irina did sound familiar. Kakashi meanwhile quietly kept away the groceries as he listened intently to his two genin conversing, wondering how curious was Sasuke really about Rina, and was he really going to find out the truth about Rina's past relationship with Itachi. Jiraiya slumped on his couch, feeling deflated and exhausted after the day he's had. He thought talking to Minato about puberty and was bad, but telling Naruto and Karen about their heritage was just as draining. Of course, as children and orphans of a clan, it is not surprising that they had many questions. He answered them the best he could, telling them all that he knew and learned from Kushina herself from his time with her, yet he could tell the two were not completely comforted, not that he could blame them. But he was glad that Naruto seemed receptive to him being his godfather. Jiraiya had worried Naruto would be mad at him for keeping quiet about their connection, yet Naruto was actually understanding, much to the older male's relief. The Toad Sage smiles at them when he remembered what Rina told him. Well, the kids will not feel as lonely anymore. Inioki watched Rina carefully as she ate and pleasantly conversed with his wife and child. He was interested when Ino had told him that she had invited someone for supper but was shocked when he opened the door to find one of his new employees at the interrogation unit standing there, smiling at him in her expensive-looking, tailored maroon jumpsuit with a pastel pink shawl draped over her shoulders. He silently wondered if Rina was at his home to kiss his but realized in little to no time at all that she was legitimately there as a guest. She showed little interest in his work despite actually being part of the very profession and instead was more keen to talk with Ino and her mother about the flower shop. Not that he minded, but it was interesting to find out that his wife actually recognized Rina as a rare regular face to come into the store from time to time. The meal was lovely. Thank you, Ino, for inviting me. Ino beamed and Rina gave her a wink before putting down her cutlery to pick them up together with her plate. Without any sort of prompting, she helped clear the table with Ino and came back to the table to sit at her seat once again, leaving the young blonde to do the dishes by herself. Let's cut to the chase. Inioki raised his eyebrow immediately, but his expression slowly started to change as Rina continued speaking. Ino came to the hospital today to ask questions about the female body. Now, I don't normally involve myself with my patient's personal affairs, but Ino was forthcoming with me and made it clear that she feels uncomfortable to ask questions with her own mother because both her parents have made things uncomfortable since her upcoming seduction classes have been announced. Ino's mother deadpanned, "You have yet to raise a child yourself, you have no idea how difficult it is to deal with situations like this." Quote, "What is so difficult? Every other parent has kids. They all go through puberty. The seduction classes is just another step a female ninja has to take in her road of life. Just what exactly is your perception of the seduction classes?" Quote, "Don't the classes teach the girls to have?" Rina blinked once then twice again before turning to Inioki. "Sir, you're the head of the interrogation unit. Please clarify for your wife." Almost immediately, the man swallowed thickly before turning to his wife. "Seduction classes are to teach the ninjas that take them how to use their charm and their wiles to manipulate their target into doing their bidding, like getting information and performing tasks." Inioki's mother rolls her eyes. "That's just a deceptive way of saying you're teaching those girls to use, isn't it? Actually, men have seduction classes too, just only those who are specially selected if they have the talent for it. Your husband in particular has the highest record of honeypot missions successfully completed in an entire year for a male in Konoha history." Inoichi's eyes bulged out of his sockets, shocked that Rina knew that while his wife shook with rage beside him in her chair. "Dear honey, I didn't do any more missions like that until I met you. And you didn't think to tell me?" bellowed the red-faced brunette. Rina coughed, taking the attention back to her. "Just for your own peace of mind, I'll give you a simplified version of what the seduction classes will actually teach. They will teach the girls how to lie, how to put on a persona, how to build self-awareness, and how to manipulate. Yes, we do teach them how to use their feminine assets to their advantage. However, we do make it clear to them that it is only if they wish to use intimacy as a tool in their information gathering, then they are welcome to do so. How they want to carry out these honeypot missions is solely up to them." Ino's mum sighs heavily, unsure of what to make of all this, while Inoichi just looked lost. "Look, I have no right to tell you how to do your job as parents, but I just don't think it's right to make your child feel uncomfortable to talk to her family if she is going through something either." Ino watched from the doorway of the kitchen, watching the change in her parents' face, and she breathed a sigh of relief. Glad that Rina was able to help. Naruto and Karen are so lucky. Later, Kakashi sat on his rooftop, trying to get a breather from the overbearing Sasuke, who could not stop grumbling and actually nagging about Kakashi's house, about the cleanliness of the kitchen, his dogs, his garden, and whatever else Sasuke was nitpicking about. The masked Junin sighed deeply, exhausted, until suddenly, a familiar scent of vanilla and wisteria wafted over to his nose and the sound of heels clicking against pavement reached his ears. He looks down just in time to see Rina walking down the pavement with the usual sway of her hips, clad in a figure-hugging maroon jumpsuit but unzipped to the bust line to show off the swell of her gracious S, and a pink shawl tied firmly around her small waist. Immediately, he jumps off of the roof and Rina stopped walking, already aware of his presence. She steps back one step to give him the room he needs to land on his feet just in front of her. "What's a pretty girl like you walking all alone looking like that in the middle of the night?" Rina lifts her head to make eye contact with him, smirking with her lip-glossed full lips, causing Kakashi to curse openly at the mere sight of it before pulling her to him in an instant and kissing her with his own lips, his mask hiked down from his face. Rina's left fingers gently presses against his cheek, his hand clasped lightly around her throat whilst his other arm wrapped firmly around her Howard figure to keep her close. The doctor/special Junin kept her other hand on his shoulder for support as the two kissed deeply, passionately, as if they needed each other to breathe. He mumbled softly in between kisses that there was a quiet alley nearby and she wasted no time in whispering harshly in his ear to do whatever he wanted. He grabbed her hand hard with force, but Rina didn't mind, and she still didn't mind when he later pressed her against the brick wall as he tore at her jumpsuit, exposing her chest even more before lifting her right leg up before moving his hand to touch the skin inside of her jumpsuit and kissing her with so much intensity that for a moment, she felt like she was 18 again when she lost her virginity. The first time she ever gave herself to Kakashi Hatake.